Hi, I'm Jeremy, the Zoo Nerd, coming to you live from my backyard in Los Angeles, California. How's everyone doing today? I hope you're well. I hope you're happy, healthy, having some fun. I hope you had a good weekend. Today in our critter chat, we're going to talk about a group of monkeys called Colobus monkeys. They are a unique group of monkeys found in Africa. They're medium-sized, so they're not huge, but they're certainly not small. And they kind of range across the middle of Africa. So from the west coast over as far as like those countries on the west of Africa, all the way over to the east coast of Africa. So from like Nigeria to Kenya is kind of the main range. There's 5 species of black colobus monkeys. That's what we're going to talk about. There's also a related family of monkeys called red colobus monkeys. We're not going to get into those today. But the black colobus monkeys, the 5 species are black, king, white-thighed, black and white, and Angolan. We're going to spend most of the time talking about the black and white colobus monkeys. If you've seen a colobus monkey in a zoo in the United States, it is most likely the black and white colobus monkey species. There is also the Angolan monkeys, Angolan colobus black and white monkeys in US zoos as well, though they're a little less common. The other 3 species are not found in US zoos to my knowledge. And they are the more vulnerable, and with the white-thighed colobus, that one is actually critically endangered. To my knowledge, there are none in zoos anywhere. The black and white colobus monkeys, the one we're going to spend most of the time talking about, that's the one most familiar to me, and probably the most familiar to you if you're familiar with them. As an adult, they weigh kind of mid-range monkey size, so about 17 pounds up to about 30 pounds. So they can be pretty heavy, but certainly a lot smaller than, say, baboons, mandrills, some of those big guy monkeys. In body length, they are going to be between 20 and 24 inches in length, so about 2 feet in length, with another 20 to 30 inch tail. So their tails are quite large. If you look closely at the photo I posted earlier on Instagram and Facebook, there are at least 3 monkeys in that photo. That photo is a few years old. I don't specifically remember how many are in there. I saw 3 when I looked at it today. But you can see their tails hanging down quite a bit from where the monkey is sitting in its exhibit at the zoo. But colobus has a unique meaning. The word actually comes from a Greek word, and it means mutilated or docked. Docked is a word that's sometimes used sometimes people dock tails on dogs. They cut the tail off when the dog is a puppy. I don't really know why, but it happens. And for colobus monkeys, when scientists first were learning about them back in the 1800s, they used this word to describe them. Because unlike other primates that have fully 10 digits on their hands, colobus monkeys barely have a thumb. It's just like a little bump. And the first couple that they looked at were dead monkeys, and they thought that they had somehow had their thumb removed. Upon further inspection, they found out that they don't really ever have much of a thumb. It's just a little bump. That being said, their other digits, their other 4 fingers, are elongated. They're pretty big. So for a medium-sized primate, their other fingers are almost as long as ours. And what that does is it gives them a really remarkable ability as they move through the trees where they live. They can kind of make a hook with those fingers, and it helps them to grab onto branches really well. Now, they're not the best at doing this. There's another group of primates that does this way better, called the gibbons. We'll talk about them in another critter chat. But colobus monkeys are really good at moving through the trees, which is really important to them because they are arboreal or tree dwelling. So they live up in the trees. They spend most of their time up there. In certain areas, they will come down to the ground if they need to cross something like a road, or if they're getting a drink out of a river or a stream on the ground. Although they are able to get most of the moisture they need from their food. And colobus monkeys are in a kind of group of monkeys that they call leaf-eating monkeys. They specialize in eating the leaves off of the trees where they live. And they really search out the new leaves, the bright green ones, the ones that are newest, most tender, and probably have the highest moisture content in them. So they are 100% vegetarians. Not always true with other monkeys, but colobus monkeys are 100% vegetarians. They specialize in eating leaves. They will occasionally eat some seeds, some flowers, and some little branches or sticks that the leaves are attached to, but it's like 95% leaves. What else? In order to digest those leaves, they kind of have to have a very special digestive system. So most primates are pretty similar anatomically to us. But colobus monkeys, the other leaf eater monkeys, and gorillas actually have something that's a little bit different than us, and that is something that helps them to eat the leaves and digest the heavy cellulose fibers that are found in vegetation like leaves. And that is a special part of their digestive system called a cecum. We have one. We call it an appendix. It doesn't do much good for us. But for these monkeys, it's bigger, and it holds a lot of very special bacteria that help digest and actually ferment the leaves and help break those down. And so when the colobus monkeys eat a bunch of leaves, it kind of first sits in like almost a different chamber of the stomach where it gets exposed to this bacteria that helps to start break it down. Because of this, one, they're kind of gassy, so they burp a lot. And two, they kind of are lazy during the middle of the day. So they wake up, they go look for some breakfast, they eat a bunch of leaves, and then they sit and rest and digest. And then when that's kind of moving along a little better, they'll go look for more leaves and then take another nice long rest. They'll spend about 50% of their time resting and digesting. Gorillas are pretty similar in that regard as well. With colobus monkeys, they live in kind of pretty well-defined territories. A male that's a dominant breeding colobus monkey, he kind of controls the territory and the group of monkeys that he travels with. So it's kind of a bigger family-sized troop, typically like 9 to maybe 15 individuals. It could be a little lower. It could be only like 5 or 6 individuals. But it's usually one adult male, several adult females, and then their kids. And so that's going to be any of the newborns and then any of the older generation that's like a year or two old. And they'll stay with their family group or their natal group. That's the troop they're born in. They'll stay with them typically 4 or 5 years old, and then they kind of peace out on mom and dad and go find another group of monkeys to become a part of their family. With their family troops, they kind of all hang out together. The male kind of calls the shots, but everyone works really well together to kind of help succeed as a family unit. And when a baby is born, the babies look quite a bit different than their parents. And I believe I have some photos, maybe even a video of this that I'll be able to share later today. But the babies are born completely white, which is quite a bit different visually than the parents, and the older siblings that are the black and white. The babies also have very curly hair, so they almost look like the hair of little sheep, little white sheep. It's very curly, and they kind of have very soft, almost pink-looking faces. And there's a couple different theories as to why there's such a striking color difference between them. With some other species of monkeys, especially a group of monkeys in Asia, the babies are very different colored than the adults, and scientists think that it helps the adults kind of keep track of the baby, because all the moms in the group kind of will help take care of any baby. The mom who actually gave birth to the baby is the one that feeds it, and she'll nurse the baby. But the other adult females will carry the baby sometimes. They'll certainly watch the baby if the mom's busy doing something else. They'll all kind of look out for the baby. And that bright white color will help everybody in the troop see where the baby is, because they want to all work together to protect that baby and make sure the baby's safe. That group parenting is called allomothering. It's kind of common in a lot of primate communities. Sometimes dad helps too. That's called alloparenting if the dads help. But if it's just the females, then it's allomothering is the term. The babies are born after a gestation period of about 6 months. They're only about a pound when they're born, so they're kind of small. But if you think back on some of the little monkeys we've talked about, like marmosets and tamarins, the adults are only a pound there. Same with squirrel monkeys. Some of the female adults are only about a pound in weight. So that's still a decent sized little baby for the Colobus monkeys. They get their adult coloration by the time they're about 6 months old. At that point, they're kind of often exploring a little bit more and eating some leaves on their own, as well as still nursing from their mom. That usually stops at between 6 and 8 months old. Mom will be ready to have another baby about 1.5 to 2 years after the first baby. There's no specific breeding season, but they tend to try to time the baby's birth to when the forest has the most food in it. So probably after the rainy season, when the trees are really getting a lot of new leaves all at once. With Colobus monkeys, they can live into their 20s in the wild, and in a zoo setting, they can typically live closer to 30. Again, most animals live longer in zoos because they have veterinary care, they don't have predators to worry about, and if they get sick or ill or injured, they get medicine and help them out. Now, out in the forest of Africa where these monkeys live, they do have some predators they need to worry about. They would definitely worry about leopards, and in some places, some other jungle cats, and definitely some eagles. Eagles would probably be their main predator. And unfortunately for a lot of them, they also have to fear people. People have caused quite a bit of problem for Colobus monkeys over the history of time. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. When they feel a threat coming, they do something kind of different than most other monkeys. What they first do is they all freeze. They stop talking, they stop moving, and because their shape is a little ambiguous because of their long hair, they can blend in pretty well when they're up in the treetops. Even though to us, black and white seems like they may stand out, in a really shady jungle, that's gonna blend in quite a bit because the white is gonna look like places where the sunlight creeps in, and the black is gonna look like shadows. And so when they sound an alarm call, if there's a predator, they all freeze. And then they kind of observe very closely what the predator's doing. And if the predator's still moving towards them or seems to have noticed them, then they will kind of all take off. They're capable of moving really quick through the trees. They can also move pretty quick on the ground. So they're pretty fast monkeys. Not the fastest, but pretty good at getting away from predators. Now, I mentioned that they need to be afraid of people because people have caused a lot of problems with them, particularly in the 1800s. They were hunted a lot for their fur. Their fur coats were very much traded in the fashion world throughout the 1800s, early 1900s, and a little bit still today. They are sometimes hunted for their furs. There was a year in the late 1800s where it was estimated that 72,000 monkeys were killed for their fur coats, and those furs were all sold to Europe, where they became fashion items, coats. Their hair is very remarkable. It's very beautiful. However, I don't believe it belongs being a coat for people. They are also sometimes hunted for food. This has been a long tradition in many parts of Africa. People who live a very modest life and don't have a lot of resources will often eat wild animals as a source of protein. However, as the population in Africa has grown and as tourism has grown, sometimes they are caught and captured, sold and butchered, and sold in restaurants in the cities, including for tourists who want to try some novel food. If you ever venture to Africa, I would encourage you to not eat what is called bushmeat. That is usually wild animals that are sold in restaurants, sometimes under somewhat questionable ways. Sometimes they don't adequately tell you what you're eating, and in some places they are endangered species. Now, in addition to hunting for their fur or for meat, their biggest threat today is habitat loss. That happens throughout a wide variety of regions for a variety of reasons. Sometimes their forest is getting cut down for the trees that grow there, and that's being exported as lumber or paper for different places in the world, depending on the country that's selling it and who they're selling it to. They are sometimes also lose their forest because they're cutting down the forest to grow crops. Particularly in the western areas of Africa, that is things like palm oil is a big problem there as the forest is getting cut down. And in some of those countries, the human population is really high and they need more land to grow more food for the people. Also, the forests are sometimes cleared for mining. There's a lot of very interesting and specific chemicals or minerals that come from Africa, one of which is a mineral called coltan. I talked about this in the gorilla episode. It is specifically used in cell phones. An easy way you can help out with that: when you get a new cell phone, recycle your old cell phone. They will take the coltan parts and other valuable parts out of an old cell phone and reuse them for new cell phones, or repurpose them to be used for new cell phones. If you live near a zoo in the United States, most zoos have a box where you can drop off an old cell phone, and they'll get it to the right people who will reuse those parts. But the zoo also gets a little money back from those people, so you can help out the zoo and you can make sure your cell phone gets used in a good place again. Don't just throw it in your recycle bin. That's not going to get it to the right place. You need to send it specifically through some electronic recycling. I believe some electronic and cell phone stores will also recycle those for you. So if you're getting a new cell phone, that's a way you can help out monkeys, gorillas, and other animals who live in those forests. With the threats that colobus monkeys face, the common species that we're talking about today, the black and white colobus and the Angolan colobus, are both listed as least concern, which is very good news. Both those species have very big ranges across multiple countries, so that helps them out. The other species, the black, the king, and the white-thighed, live in smaller regions, and some of those regions have a lot more economic problems going on, and unfortunately those are more vulnerable to extinction, with the white-thighed monkeys being critically endangered. They live in the far western areas of Africa, where a lot more people live. Now, I always like to talk about my experience with the animals I talk about in Critter Chat, and colobus monkeys are one of the animals that I've had a very long history with. When I very first started my zoo career back in 2006 as a volunteer keeper assistant at Utah's Hogle Zoo, colobus monkeys were one of 5 species of monkeys that I worked with there. The photo that I shared earlier today is from Utah's Hogle Zoo, and some of those monkeys are the same monkeys I worked with, although that photo was taken quite a few years later. That photo is from 2015, I believe. 2015 or 2017. I visited that zoo again in both those times. Anyway, during my time at Hogle Zoo, I really loved working with the colobus monkeys. They were super delightful. At the time I worked there, there was a mom and a dad, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a baby who all lived there with their parents. The 5-year-old was super rowdy. He was about to the point where he was ready to go off on his own and join another family. so he didn't follow his parents very well, and he really wanted to prove that he was a big, tough guy. So he would threaten me and the keepers who worked with him quite a bit. He was really a lot of fun, and also a little bit scary. It's a little terrifying even when you're on the other side of the fence and a 15-pound monkey is coming running at you and jumping towards you. Their fence in that exhibit can also move quite a bit, so when he would jump on it, it could move quite a bit, and he came real close to my face one time and scared me quite a bit. I really loved being able to cut branches off of trees and feed to those monkeys when I worked there as a keeper assistant, and to see them interact with things like enrichment or fresh branches was really cool and exciting for me. During my visit to Kenya, which is one of the countries where these monkeys live, I was able to visit a special place called the Mount Kenya Animal Orphanage. I talked about that in the episode about bongos, because that is what that organization specifically works with, but they take in other animals as well. And there was a juvenile Colobus monkey there that they had found as an orphaned individual. He was probably still being nursed, but he was already black and white. He had lost his white hair, so he was at least 6 months old when they found him alone in the forest, and they still needed to bottle feed him for a little bit. He was super happy to see people. I will try to find my photo, but I have a photo of him sitting on my shoulder, which I don't necessarily recommend with monkeys. I actually didn't ask him to sit on my shoulder. He jumped on me, which was also a little bit scary, especially given my previous scares with this species. I was a little nervous for that. He was very gentle, and he was very excited because I had some little seeds that I had been given to feed him. So that was very fun. During my time as a zookeeper in Los Angeles, and especially during my time preparing to be a zookeeper there, we also had a very large family of Colobus monkeys. I think we got up to 18 at one time, which was pretty crazy. That's a lot for a zoo to have of one species like them. And it was super great to be able to watch the babies grow up and see how they would all kind of pitch in and take care. All the moms would pitch in to take care of the babies. The dad didn't do much to help out. He was kind of, that's just kind of how dad Colobus monkeys are. But it was really great to see them interact with each other. And when the babies got a little bigger, they would certainly play and chase each other. And it was very fun to be able to observe that. I'll be sharing some more information about Colobus monkeys later today up on the Facebook profile. And as always, this Critter Chat will be uploaded to Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, as well as on my website at jeremythezoonerd.com. So check it out, as well as a bunch of photos. I'm going to upload a bunch more photos, hopefully this afternoon, to the website as well. So check that out. And as always, feel free to like, follow, share, and subscribe to any of my content across all the platforms. And yeah, hope you have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow for another fun animal in our Critter Chat. Take care, be happy, be healthy, stay safe. Bye.